Hello. The research and teaching project that I manage as a lecturer in architecture at Queen's University is the Street Space Project, which investigates the complexity and value of local mixed streets. The project works in collaboration with people of different backgrounds, such as academics, students, practitioners, and policymakers, to explore the value of streets as essential public spaces. Today, I will discuss some of the changes to streets that we're beginning to see brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, this is a dreadful phenomenon. The pandemic is affecting every country in the world in terms of health, economy, and well-being. But in these uncertain times, we may be glimpsing the emergence of trends that might start to reshape streets as we know them. Many cities around the world are redistributing the space of streets to allow for social distancing. Milan, Paris, Toronto, and many others are currently widening footpaths using temporary infrastructure to provide space for distancing. Other cities, like Rome, are taking this further and are already building permanent infrastructure to provide more space for active commuting once the lockdowns are lifted, but people still need to social distance. Now, this is not really a new development. The virus is actually acting as a catalyst. Since the car began to take over cities all across the world after World War II, there have been movements to resist this. Large infrastructures were developed inside and outside cities to enable the car to be the main means of transport to get around. Much of the development done to facilitate vehicle traffic damaged the space that pedestrians and cyclists used to share. Increasingly, since the 1960s, activist groups have protested against car-centered development, but with little success on the ground. A few exceptional cities, such as Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and Vienna, developed rich, segregating cycling infrastructure and regulations, which have enabled them to be some of the most desirable cities to live in the 21st century, as published in the ECA International and Mercer rankings. More recently, to address problems with pollution, air quality, and road safety, other cities are pushing for the development of more diverse modes of transport, focusing on pedestrians and cyclists. Anne Hidalgo, while mayor of Paris, made the bold move in 2017 of banning traffic from the Seine motorway in the center of the city, in a 6-month temporary plan that became permanent. Janet Sadiq-Khan, while commissioner in the New York City Department of Transportation, through a project in collaboration with Gale Architects, pedestrianized Times Square and transformed it. Ada Colau, current mayor of Barcelona, is working on a project to remove through traffic from 2/3 of one district's streets, the Eixample, through the supercuadras. Cities all over South America, like Buenos Aires since the early 2000s, are now prioritizing walking and cycling and public transport above individual cars. Belfast and other Northern Irish cities were ripe for motorway development and car-centred street design in the 1960s. And despite some pockets of resistance, this type of development went largely unchallenged until the end of the 20th century. Many campaigners did demand better, healthier, and more accessible means of transport, but their calls have fallen on deaf ears for decades. Until now. The lockdown has shown people, including politicians, that streets with less vehicle traffic may enable a healthier, more livable environment, where noise, pollution, and road dangers are reduced. For example, in Belfast currently, in the midst of the COVID emergency, there are 2 potentially positive developments being considered in the city. The first development concerns the York Street interchange, a project with plans to widen the roads at this area to enable more cars to come into the city. This scheme is currently being reviewed afresh, which may mean that the area adjacent to it, left barren for decades, might potentially be developed back into the thriving neighbourhood the area called Sailortown once was. The second positive development is the 5th May announcement by Northern Ireland's Infrastructure Minister, Nicola Mallon, that a new walking and cycling champion for Northern Ireland is to be appointed. This presents a real hope that street design features called for over the last decade might finally be materialised, with more focus given to designing better cycle lanes and better walkways. From these examples of change that we're just starting to see coming through the street planning and design, I think we're witnessing more awareness of important role for street architecture and city planning as tools to improve the lives of city residents. Here's hoping that this new life that is in front of us might bring cleaner air, healthier streets, and a friendlier and calmer environment.